Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a video and podcast show that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Today, it is my privilege to have a very, very close friend from Sri Lanka with me. Warnakulasuriya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Asutosh. Thank you. And I'm going to call you Ash. Thank you so much. Thank you for welcoming me on the show.
Thank you. Jit is an MBA. He's the founder of the Just-in-Time Group, which is a group that is involved in information technology, education, hospitality, investments in finance, and byproducts of construction. So, Jit, tell me a little bit about what would you say are the three key milestones in your career?
The first would be starting at a very, very young age. I did my upper exams, as you call A-level in Sri Lanka at the age of 17 and started working. I got a lot of experience. I started working at the age of 17 plus.
Okay.
And the second most important thing I did was breaking off on my own. I only worked for one company for 16 years. That too, I ended up as the managing director of that particular company, and then thereafter starting on my own. And of course, the third thing would perhaps be started believing in the creator, the God, in a very big way.
Okay.
That everything happens for a purpose. So those are the three areas that I would highlight.
Wonderful. So let's talk about the Just-in-Time Group. First, tell me, does Just-in-Time come from JIT, your name?
That's right. So I was actually traveling back after a vacation, after quitting my first job after 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading about what's called the just-in-time philosophy of how the Japanese implemented it. And I thought it was my first name and it's the ideal name for a company. But when I came back to Sri Lanka, I found that, even the advertising guy said, how do you go and promote a company called Just-in-Time?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. But it's just interesting how it, seemed to fit in well. Jit, you are not an IT professional, and yet you are running a very, very successful IT company. What is the secret?
So what happened was when I was working with your other company, group managing director, who was actually one of my earlier mentors, he keeps his door open and all he sees is me sitting out there.
Mm-hmm.
One day he called me in and said, "Hey, do you like to quit what you're doing now and start an IT company?" I said, "Yeah, I have absolute no problem. I'm young as just 19 years and let's give it a try." And then I never looked back. So I started two companies for them in IT, one with IBM and the other one with an international brand called Computer Lab. And I worked with them for 16 years and I started on my own. But it was their belief that an expert or a qualified person in a particular field should not head up that business.
Okay.
Because then you get involved in the jargon and the intricacies of the business. And it's always somebody from outside who should be looking inside into a different business, and that's how I got into it, and I have done extremely well, as you perhaps would have read about it.
I know. I mean, you are not just in time. You're everywhere in Sri Lanka and IT, and I think that is congratulations to all the work. But
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about the incredible scope of work that you handle. I mean, from real estate to technology to investments.
Bread and butter was IT. So I started the Just-in-Time Group 24 years back on June 6th. And we were doing extremely well. I mean, we decided that we will not go into any retail type of business. So we went into more to do with system integration solutions. These are long-term projects. And, some of our customers, actually most of our customers are there for the last 23 years. They've never moved away. And during the civil unrest in the country, IT was the last thing that people are looking at.
Okay.
So we decided to diversify into areas that no matter what civil unrest we will have in the country, that these businesses would continue. So that's what initially from IT we branched off into education. Education is never going to go down no matter what problems the country has. And then thereafter we branched off into byproducts of construction. So building blocks, paving stones is something that will always continue. And of course, metal quarry, so which is, for building highways and roads. And then thereafter, we got an opportunity to move into finance. So we went and invested in one of the commercial banks in Sri Lanka,
Mhm.
where now TPG, one of the biggest investors
Yeah.
in the world, have also come and bought up a large stake in that bank and yet continue to hold the stake in the bank. And I also went on the boards of the bank, the finance company, and the asset management company,
Mhm.
which gave me a lot of experience,
Mm.
in different areas.
Mm.
And then, of course, we ventured into hospitality.
Okay.
I mean, with the towards the end of the civil unrest, there was an invitation made to me and a friend of mine by somebody who was building a hotel,
Mhm.
and then we went and looked at it, and it was like a six-star boutique hotel,
Okay.
and we decided to go into it. So that's it's purely because of the civil unrest and wanting to diversify that we moved out of IT and put all our profits into different areas.
And why don't you tell us the brand name of this hotel for all our viewers?
So the brand name is Serene Pavilions.
Okay. In
So the
Colombo?
word, sorry,
Is it in Colombo or
it
somewhere
is
else?
just 40 minutes out of Colombo in a place called Vadua.
Okay.
It's a, it's built after the Balinese pavilions, as you call it. So
Right.
each pavilion is almost 2,500 square feet.
Uh-huh.
So it's it's apartment by its own, but it's on the beach. It's on a 5 acres property, and we have some of the best clients in the world coming in there. So it's an experience. I mean, it's if you come for the serenity, there are no buffets. It's all to do with a la carte. You can eat when you want, where you want, and you can even we have butler service also going all the way into the room.
Wow. Phenomenal. So moving on, continuing our discussion on the JIT group, you are a software services company. What are the challenges you face in scaling up?
So Sri Lanka being small, our numbers in software are extremely, extremely small.
Correct.
And they go at a very high price because many companies, few people. And of course, when you qualify here, our qualifications are also acceptable anywhere else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the salary scales are much higher if you go to Europe or to Australia or to the US.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same qualification that you get there as well in where technology is concerned.
Correct.
So retention is a big challenge.
Mm.
But we've gone into domains, which is banking, telecoms, and certain government domains where experience counts.
Okay.
So one of the biggest success factors has been retention. I can proudly say that more than 50% of our staff have been with the company more than 15 years. So that's one of the retention factors that we have.
Mm-hmm.
But there are many challenges within the country understanding technology. As you know, any business would buy a BMW for an executive and delay the technology or the software purchase.
Right.
But we have managed to select our battles and win the battles and stay alive.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And how is the technology business growing and developing in Sri Lanka?
So there has been ups and downs depending on the changes of government. Some governments hub technology, some governments don't hub technology. So we managed to survive the onslaught, when good times and bad times. But we're very, very lucky that we have a new president. His Excellency is tech savvy. And I believe that during his first term, his belief is that he would want to convert Sri Lanka into a digital hub.
Wow.
And he's gone about doing it in the right manner. And we are very happy that the next 5 years will be very, very interesting for us as a technology company.
Amazing. Amazing. And when we were talking some time back, you were telling me that you've been handling some very interesting software projects. If they're not confidential, tell me about some of these.
Okay, so I can talk in brief. So we run for the country, the central bank.
Oh, wow.
Sri Lanka has something called the RTGS, the real-time gross settlement system. So this is the interliquidity between banks. So we've been with a company in UK. We've been running this for the last 18 years for the bank. So which is very critical in times of natural disasters or in times of like COVID. We become actually essential service because the banks have to run in the background.
Correct.
And then we also do the only common switch in the country, which is switching any financial transaction, whether it be a ATM, point of sales, a mobile transaction, a mobile cash transaction. Every transaction through a bank runs through this switch. So that too is maintained by us and supported by us for the last 8 years.
Okay.
And of course, we also run digital banking. Digital banking has been the thing coming into Sri Lanka, and we are proud that one of the banks that we work with being a government bank, we managed to convert it to a very agile operation to compete with the private sector and winning almost every digital banking award out there in the region as well as in Sri Lanka. And we have driven their technology, digital banking up by 320%
Wow.
increase in business on the digital platform.
Amazing.
So we are proud to say that we perhaps are the only company who's running such technologies for key institutions. And
Right.
we very recently won the national identity card.
Hmm.
So we actually now do the national ID also with our partners.
That must be a big project. The
It is,
national
it is.
identity card.
That's right. It is and growing. So we're very happy about, like I said, we pick the areas we want to be.
Hmm.
And if you did pick up from just the three projects, so we are very keen on only focusing on national projects. So where it caters to the whole population. So that's our target market.
Wonderful. You also spoke about you're doing byproducts of construction. Tell me a little bit about this business.
So construction, like I've explained, we are into the paving stones. So it's a byproduct of construction and into building blocks. So we have a factory called Amtrak, which is a 45-year-old company, which we bought into quite late,
Mhm.
which is into these two products. So that's why we call it byproducts of construction. That's as simple as it is.
Okay. So tell me, I meet a lot of businessmen from Sri Lanka, and you're a very dear friend. Why don't I see more Sri Lankan businessmen making investments and doing big business in India when you've got such a big market next to you?
So I think the feeling, there's only one company that I can think of who has gone in there very big, which is a furniture company called Damro.
Correct.
And it's doing extremely well.
Hmm.
So our belief is that you need to be in the critical manufacturing area to enter a market like India, and you have to have moderate pricing.
Okay.
And the entry barriers to India is quite big,
Mhm.
quite difficult in fact. So, which is why I think Sri Lankan companies prefer to go into Asian countries or even to Bangladesh, Nepal. You find banks which have gone into Bangladesh and Nepal and the Maldives, but they find the entry barrier into India to be tougher.
Hmm.
So I think if the entry barriers are reduced, then certainly we can perhaps get into India.
Very interesting. And what kind of entry barriers would this be? Are these government restrictions?
Well, government restrictions in the context of market entries, the fierce competition that you get there, and maybe the incentives given to foreign companies. And for us, scalability is a problem. Scalability is a problem, and it's very difficult. If you were to ask me specifically in our area, which is software, India has a dime a dozen of people who are there in the software business, so it will be extremely difficult for us to compete in the Indian market. But India does see a lot of value in Sri Lanka. In fact, Sri Lanka government was very quick after this new government came in to get HCL to come and open a worldwide global development center in Sri Lanka, which has gone down very well. And I hope more Indian companies come into Sri Lanka, which means that we would have a better chance of going out there and going out to the region. And of course, my advice would be that they come in with partnership with a Sri Lankan company.
Correct.
To get any benefit out of it.
Correct. I agree. That I agree with you. So one more question, on business before I move to another part of the show. Like most countries, Sri Lanka also has a very young population, which are the millennials, and they're all now in the workforce, etc. And millennials have their own way of thinking and their own way of working. How are millennials affecting the just-in-time group?
Well, it's a big challenge for us. But first, I must say that they're keeping us young.
Okay.
So considering a 24-year-old company, and we also acquired after Just in Time came into being, we've actually acquired a couple of more companies. Ash, we acquired the IT arm of one of the largest companies in the country, and it's called KBSL.
Mm-hmm.
And we also acquired the IT arm of another large company now, and it's called Enable. These are investments that I have made as an entrepreneur. These are not investments made by the company. Right now, I own 4 IT companies within the group, which have a 600 plus staff and are doing quite efficient and quite well and quite productive. but they run independently. But I'm the sole entrepreneur owning these businesses. So we have different kinds of challenges when it comes to the Gen X and the millennials. You know, one thing for sure, I must say that they keep all of us on our toes. We need to be agile, we need to work, but it's a good learning process, and specifically in our industry.
Correct.
I think it is best to have a combination of the old hogs, as you say, right, or the baby boomers, as you say, and to have a mix of the millennials and the Gen X, because it actually keeps a company challenged.
Wonderful.
So we actually have zero issue in managing them and handling them. And we have our HR, is headed by a lady who's been with us for almost 14 years plus, and she's managed to keep them challenged and keep the older guys challenged. We, in fact, run a program where we pair off a baby boomer with a Gen X or a millennial for a mentoring process, and it was worked very well for us.
Terrific. So one more question, and then I've got time for some personal questions. You said, 4 companies as an entrepreneur. You are a quintessential entrepreneur with so many different companies. I'm sure you invest in startups as well. This question is for a lot of young people who will listen to you and me chat. What are some of the basic mistakes a lot of startup entrepreneurs make?
Well, when they get the first round of funding, or they get the sweat going, they develop a very good idea, unique idea. And when the first round of funding comes, they run off to get more facilities, such as a new building, a new car, rather than concentrating on completing the products. And to me, the biggest mistake that I have found that they do is not getting their marketing mix right.
Right.
So we have excellent products in startups. We have excellent thought processes, and they are funded quite well. But the only thing is that they get the marketing mix wrong. So companies like us, actually, we buy in to startups maybe on the second or third round of investment because they lack in marketing. I think everything in life is about a relationship and how you get a marketing mix going for your product. The product itself, there are enough good products in the market, enough young companies creating new technology. But certainly getting the right marketing mix is, in my opinion, the foremost thing a startup should do. And even us, I mean, focusing on the right market, picking your battles and going after what you want is what we do. And it works even for the startups.
Terrific. Thank you. So time for a few personal questions for you, Jay.
Sure, Ash.
Where do you draw your inspiration from?
That's a tough question to answer, but my inspiration, I would say, started off with my former managing director that I spoke about. He's very energetic. He's 70 plus and he's yet more energetic than I am. I learned from him that there is nothing called something cannot be done. There's always a way of doing it if you know how to find the way of doing it, and if you take the trouble to find the way of doing it. There's always a way over a wall, dig a hole under a wall, break the wall down. There's always a way. So my first inspiration came from there. And then I also have people who inspire me in my own office. I used to be a real aggressive go-getter, but I think time also changed me. And I have one person who influences me in office who gets the calmer side of me going. And of course, I've also got, in the recent past, some part of it that you don't know about me, Ash, because we've not met each other for a long time, is that I also gone into helping the church that I belong to in a big way. And in that, I also have a mentor there who has inspired me in different ways. But I must say that as at today, being my age, I have not woken up a single day in my life without being inspired. I mean, it's just automatic when I wake up in the morning that I'm ready to run.
Terrific. How nice. That is amazing. So my next question, interesting segue from what you just commented, that if you were a role model to millions of children who closely followed your life choices, what is the one thing you would change in yourself?
To go back to my childhood.
Okay.
I think when you get too hooked on business, when you get too hooked on the material things as they call it in life, you forget where you started. And I think the more time that I would spend with the younger people and if they were following me, I would learn from them
Mhm.
that the simple thought process that you have works for everything. In life, we simply overcomplicate everything.
Very
My
interesting.
belief is that if you break it down to simple building blocks like what a child would do, I would want to go back to that learning from them.
Fantastic. The next question is that, you hire so many people, in different businesses. What do you look for when you hire a person?
So we have something that we run in our company, which is commonly used, called the DNA.
Okay.
We have our own DNA.
Okay.
So the DNA actually is something that I inspired and started working on.
Mhm.
I need to see go-getters. It's not the qualification that I look at. I look at go-getters, the experience, and the urge and the energy they have at an interview or in a discussion for them to, thrive in the business. So, in most key positions, I do get involved in the interviews even now
Okay.
because my belief is that in any company that we are a part of,
Mhm.
if you don't have the right mix, the business cannot go forward.
Correct. Correct. Wonderful. So I have time for two more questions for you. My next question is that what does success mean to you?
Success to me is ending up the day being very happy
Mhm.
and content. I do not look forward to any other factors that most others would look forward to.
Mhm.
And money means nothing in my life.
Mhm.
But it's being joyful and content at the end of the day that I achieve what I want to
Mhm.
is the most important thing to me. And I like the run, I like the hunt.
Mhm.
But when I get over the hurdle, I become very mellow.
Wonderful. And my last question to you, and this automatically relates to the pandemic we are all faced with. And Sri Lanka, I think, has done an incredible job in managing the challenges that most of the world hasn't been able to. But given the pandemic, how are you rethinking your life in the new world order?
We have not adjusted much. Personally, my life has changed to think of the more important things in life
Hmm.
and to simplify it again. I have always been somebody who simplified things,
Mhm.
but I actually gone into even more simplification, and that life is what it is.
Correct.
And I believe that our Creator pressed the reset button on us.
Hmm.
That we were too ambitious, running too hard, and He set the reset button on us. So, personally, I have learned a lot from it to respect more people, to look at the common person who actually brought life back to us during the pandemic, who in fact delivered groceries to our doorstep,
Correct.
and to the staff that sometimes we think, do not productively work.
Hmm.
To look at that they too have maybe some personal concerns that we need to address.
Hmm.
And from a business point of view, we actually, company went out and got a COVID certification as well. So we are allowed to work and announce that to anybody. But we learned a lot to respect each other. People have started walking up the staircase rather than going in a lift today.
Hmm.
They're very concerned about the health. And I mean, the company has adjusted, got more agile, more lean, and we're actually doing extremely well compared with some of the industries that we feel bad for who have had to shut down completely, like the tourism industry and the garments industry, which has been hit very badly. But we have survived, and we're actually in a hiring mode. We actually want to hire more people into different areas. So that's our take on the pandemic.
Jits, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. I wish the entire group, all your investments, and you personally a lot of success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ash. Thank you so much. It was so nice to be on your program. And I wish you all the success in what you're doing and continue doing what you're doing because I think you inspire a lot of people.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the brand called You Videocast and Podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.